Hello there. If you've been privy to any of my previous journals or ramblings and rants, you most likely by now have picked up on the fact that I'm unwell. Well, let's try to define wellness, shall we? I'm a human being. Chances are you are, unless you're an alien or some lizard and or an artificial life form pretending to be a human. But nonetheless, you're a product of nature and or a product of something within nature, comprised of minerals and other things found in nature, much like a human being. So too would be a robot, so too would be an alien, so too would be a lizard person, so too would be anything that is not categorized or entirely fictitious. Categorized as fictitious and or entirely fictitious, right? For that we have the cryptids, though a few of them do beg the question, what is real and what is not? But that's besides the point. I know these are kind of stream of consciousness, just ravings and rantings of a lunatic, of a mind falling apart. Or maybe not, I don't know anymore. It's kind of hard to really do much and not really question all of it. Because frankly, I've been over the last, pretty much my entire life, this definitely predates even learning that I was adopted. My teachers have often, throughout my education, formal education, labeled me as some type of a genius / philosopher. And in my own pursuit, in my own education, I've looked into religious fields, scientific fields, exploring mathematics and spirituality and language itself, fiction and fact. And a couple of things have begun to really stand out above the rest. And that's the role of the individual and that of the collective, and how that informs this thing we call civilization. In my humble opinion, civilization is a failed experiment, should be aborted, and not completely discarded, because as is the case with all failure, it's not a loss so much as it is a means to further one's knowledge, and through the experience, through the journey itself, hopefully come upon that which is known and otherwise called wisdom. Sages, men much smarter and better than me, have come and gone and not really found an answer to life's to the many great mysteries. I'm a huge fan of an Alan Watts, who has more or less informed my spirituality, my awakening, and my return to God. As an adolescent, as a 15-year-old, heartbreak and such put me off the path. I rejected God and went so far as to put a no God sign, right? Like that no sign with God in the center. And, now that I'm more educated in matters of spirituality and religion, I understand better the role of the hypocrite and that of the critic, and how God instills in all of us doubt and doubts, plural, and pluralize it, and anxieties, which are not to undermine us spiritually or secularly, but to challenge us, to perhaps instigate and motivate growth. Because here's the thing about life. life exists in many forms. You have complex lives, such as you and me, and then you have complex byproducts of life, such as the very technology we're using here, right? So there is a level of complexity and intricacy to the Godhead, the consciousness, which brings it all and illuminates it all, thus enabling this very exchange, if anyone is watching or not. But the difficulty of it lay not in the self or even in the external. It's something in between. I guess science has perhaps done better at kind of examining it and explaining it through quantum physics and space-time. Religion has failed because religion has thrived upon ignorances which do not serve anything other than just the self. You know, you have the Christians, as who was Alan Watts himself puts it, right? Like the Christians go and say, hey, we're gonna take Jesus, Yeshua of Bethlehem, and we're gonna martyr him so that nobody ever again can basically say, look at me, I'm God. The Hindu and the Buddhism teachings have perhaps been the most successful in terms of not only finding balance, but creating said balance and propagating it. The secular machine, especially throughout Asia, has done its worst to try and curb that, because the last thing that the powers that be, not God, but the false gods and false prophets, right, are leaders. Can't really call them leaders, but you know, that's what they are. But a bad leader is still a leader, I guess. So I stand corrected. Teaches us how not to be bad, piss poor. But at any rate, you know, all these religions have come and gone. All these systems of government and governance have come and gone. Law and order have come and gone. And all we are left is with the abject failure of civilization and humanity in learning the necessary lessons. Now, depending on who you ask, humanity is 6,000 years old, 12,000 years old, 100 and some odd thousand years old, 200 and some odd thousand years old. And while I haven't been out there on the trenches, right, so to speak, digging up fossils, I would estimate that humanity, not in our present form, but some semblance of what we are, has been around for next to, if not longer than 1 million years. Why do I say that? Well, observe the complexity of the environment and the complexity of the human organism as it relates to it and its role in there as a critic and a hypocrite. While people aren't necessarily anything other than that which they permit themselves to be, and or that which the environment shapes them to be. You know, the fact that we are not addressing things like CPTSD, you know, childhood post-traumatic stress disorder, all the traumas they're in, and the bipolar personality disorders that are born of it, which leads, you know, because again, here's the thing about civilization. The idea of civilization, right, is to civilize the person, the human animal. It's basically, humans are domesticated. We domesticated ourselves like cats did to themselves. And then by virtue of our domestication, we were able to domesticate dogs, cattle, etc. And humans are no different, but somehow, something inside every human's head that is compelled, is pulled, I guess, because of the divine spark in all of us. We are God, an expression of God, God essentially experiencing itself, and we are afforded the free will to come and go. And that is what gives room for catastrophe, human-made catastrophe. because there's plenty of natural catastrophe. Death is not one of them, nor is life. Those are just points across space-time which give rise and, of course, fall to being, to systems, whether it be entire star systems, galaxies, from the vast cosmos itself down to the grains of sand on the beach. Space and time will rearrange all of it with no particular reason or rhyme. There's no driving force behind any of it other than just nature itself at play. And that's where we fail. Took ourselves too seriously. We elevated ourselves to the point of kings and emperors and holy men, when in reality, we're nothing. Dust unto dust. But some people have, myself included, let their ego run away. They've given the ball to their ego and let the ego run wild and free. And that is dangerous, because out here, all of us as divine expressions within our right to express and be. If we're doing it so, and we're doing it so at the detriment and cost of others, it ultimately serves no one and only begets more destruction. It's how every war begins. It starts a couple of people, usually 1-2 people, having a discord. More often than not, it's not even 2 people, it's just the one person having an awful go at it. There's CPTSD, their undiagnosed BPD, and any one number of traumas that have, like dominoes, preceded that event, wherein the mind is possessed by any one of the numerous spirits: anger, sadness, depression. All of these things are spirits, categorically so, because they deviate from your base. And the base, that's the equilibrium, right? I believe it was the Egyptians who perhaps created the concept of wherein in death, when one passes, their heart is weighed against a feather. Poetic, artistic. Yeah, barely. But in order to comprehend what that's trying to teach, because everything is a teaching, even the most writers laugh out loud crap. Everything is teaching you something: how to relax, how to be serious, etc. Right? It's a careful balance. And the thing is that our heart, individually and collectively, runs heavy. And it's tipped the scales in life to the effect of not only continued, but continuous genocide. All we do is kill ourselves. All we do is destroy ourselves. Whether it's suicide, which I've struggled with, which many have struggled with, or just harming others. Like living in America, having come here in 01 and being here for some 20, going on 23 odd years now, 22. Yeah. The one thing that has really stood out for me is the level of violence that people visit upon one another in a country that otherwise shouldn't really, at least from the outside, right, have much reason to have this level of violence. I mean, America is probably the most racist country on earth, and just look at the ludicrousy, how ludicrous all that is. Racism. I get prejudice based on ethnicity, but racism? Aren't we all human? Or have we categorized ourselves incorrectly? Are we at the point where now we're going to elevate ethnic backgrounds and cultures to the level of races? Kind of odd. I mean, when you look at the natural world and the natural order of things, we do tend to separate things accordingly, right? Not all monkeys are chimps. Not all birds are red robins. Not all snakes are cobras, etc., 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 etc. Like, what I'm trying to get at is, it is our very differences that makes us alike, insofar as what makes us alike is what makes us so different. Because when nature created things and began this chaotic process, this engine that keeps going and going and going, and it just keeps self-annihilating in order to open up space for the new. One realizes that nature, herself, itself, himself, themselves, whatever you want to call it, is truly ambivalent to its children, I guess, if you want to call it that, to creation itself. And humans make this mistake of attributing meaning to themselves, to the environment, and to others, civilizations, smaller groups, in ways that don't serve anyone or anything. Civilization is a failed experiment. Doesn't mean that, again, as I said at the beginning or throughout the video, throughout this journal, like, it's the old saying that the obstacle becomes the way. The obstacle right now is literally just taking a pin and pricking the ego bubble, and the ego inflation, right? Imagine it a balloon, individually and collectively, just run away. So we have to burst it. There's a reason why almost all religion says that it's sinful to worship the flesh, iconography, etc. Because the sum total is what God is, not pieces of it, not me, not you. In so much as we are God, we are not the God, as a certain Bill Murray once put it. We're not. Try though as you may, magic is very real. The word is magic. Action is magic. Your thoughts are magic. As you combine people, the volatile nature, its volatility amplifies, and therein is the danger. We are piss poor magicians, alchemists. We no longer possess an understanding of the natural world and natural order to affect change over ourselves and our environment in a way that's productive. Like, it seems like everything that people are doing is counterproductive, counterintuitive. Just look at how many people are losing their jobs right now. People keep talking about how algorithms and AI are the enemy. You understand that people are creating the algorithm, creating the AI? You can't accuse the tools of wrongdoing if the master, the one using them, is the one perpetrating said wrongdoing. But what do I know when I know nothing? It's the only wisdom. I've been training myself and become very successful at letting go of things, people. Just no attachment anymore. It's pointless. It's futile. Attaching yourself to any one thing is perhaps the height of madness and insanity, because the form itself is so fleeting that it inevitably comes undone. So if you're the sort of person that contributes to that destruction, but you do so without letting chaos be your driver. I know that sounds weird, right? Chaos, disorder. You're misunderstanding chaos. Chaos is will, but it's the absence of will. It's this weird thing. I guess the yin and yang is the best way to illustrate, right? Like, you need the black fish and the white fish in order to have discernment. And that's what nature, if nature if human life has any meaning or purpose, that's it. Discernment. It's our greatest gift. It's how we discern fire, hot and heat, from water, cool and cold. But I digress. I know nothing. I'm probably just a lunatic. Right now, I feel my most at peace that I felt in a long time. I woke up this morning with a mild migraine after finally having some sleep. The earlier video, I woke up in the middle of the night, slept like maybe an hour, and then recorded that one, and then tried to go back to sleep, and then basically just tossed and turned, but alas, I was able to get a few extra hours in. And then this morning, I just been pondering on mistakes and transgressions and really reflecting and praying. I don't know, man. Let's not even go into the subject of simulation, right? I mean, civilization is a simulation. Early man grew to power, and as they grew to power, they grew in psyche and psychology and the energy and magic therein, and through language and action and discourse and community, with now where we are. And it's not that I don't appreciate it and I want to see it destroyed, no. I think that if we can get our shit together, there is much to benefit everyone, to grow everyone. And it is something that goes beyond this dogma of the present, right? That you will own nothing and you will appreciate everything. It's weird, man, because when you look at the paper in writing, like, civilization has done so much good, but in its application, the applied civilization, people, our role in it, we've failed, and we continue to fail, and we continue to let ourselves down, and by virtue of letting ourselves down, others around us down, and so on. I hope I make it. I hope you make it. Wherever you are, I hope you're having a good day, a good morning, a good afternoon, a good evening, a good night. And I hope that somewhere in here you will find, I don't know. I don't even know what you will find. But if anything, at least understand that you're not alone. There's a lot of people out there like us, going through the same struggle, trying to do the best we can, and for reward, we're just getting pushed further and further down the pits, because some people's egos have gotten so blown out of proportion that they are out here in the belief, false belief of course, that they are the righteous, the Godhead, and everyone else is just some type of a non-player character, an NPC. I know I'm guilty of that. Humility is something that I've struggled with, perhaps because I'm on the spectrum somewhere, some type of autism, some type of Asperger's. I don't know, I haven't been diagnosed. Certainly in my study of these conditions, I have come to really identify with a couple of things. But what is it that they say about causation? I forget what the saying is, but something to the effect of, just because I have the symptoms don't mean I have the disease. It could be something else entirely different. So, not to say that neurodivergency is a disease. I think we've misunderstood the mind far too long, and it's time we've changed how we approach the mind, because the mind is ultimately going to be the thing that guides us. The body is just a vehicle, the mind is the driver. And discipline, and discipline virtue at that, are the only thing that can truly maintain the balance between mind and body. So that your ego, right, the persona, the logos, as the Greeks put it so eloquently, reason shines through. Not absent-minded, characterless features such as egocentrism, grandiosity, aggrandizing yourself, and belief, the false belief that one is better than anything. Again, it's not to put you so far down as to say that you're garbage. And I say that a lot about humans, people, myself included, especially myself. I personally believe that humans are inferior to ants in every way. Just all life on this planet. Bacteria, virus, amoebas are superior to humans. Because here's the thing. Humans in their free will have drank the Kool-Aid that they're better than everything else and other humans. And that's the funny thing. Because if you're a human being and you're greater, therefore all other humans are the same, right? Food for thought. So, in a world where everybody is great, nobody is great. But that doesn't mean that we're all small, because if we're all small, nobody is small. And therein is born the cycles, the yugas, as the Hindus have so aptly named it. Cycles in which humanity, life, right, collectively acts out a play in the world. And inevitably, catastrophe comes along. And the irony of it is, it doesn't have to be human-made. Like, we could very well change our ways, right? Become a utopia, some Kardashevian dream. And then lo and behold, nature says, hey, time to reset that planet right there. And the rogue planet, rogue star, asteroid, quasar, supervolcano, as I said before, bacteria, viruses, fungus. We don't know. And that's what makes life beautiful, not knowing. The process of learning is beautiful. But there is a reason why people say ignorance is bliss. Because in order to learn, the pursuit of knowledge, the one thing we all must do is to stare long and hard into the abyss of the unknown. And sooner or later, the abyss will stare back. And that's revelation. And not all minds, not all bodies, and not all combination of the two are yet prepared for that. Think in Matrix terms. When Morpheus approaches Neo, much the same way as in Star Wars, when Qui-Gon first takes Anakin before the Jedi Council, and many other such myths, there is this moment where the hero, you and I, are confronted with a harsh reality called a paradigm, social order and structure. And our very being, our very presence, our very ego, our very persona, our logos, relative to all else that's come before, becomes what is now dubbed an outlier. And so society questions it. And what we don't know, we fear. Fear isn't real. Fear only exists here. And fear is nothing more than a manifestation of ignorance. And ignorant, all men are born. And I'm not using the term man there just for people that have penises. I'm talking about human civilization. All are born dumb, stupid, and ignorant. To everything except for the thing that matters the most, nature. Isn't that a beautiful thing? And it's hilarious because as you grow, as you mature, you become dull to that. And it's almost as though knowledge itself robs you of that virtue, that bliss of being one with the cosmos in spite of our fragile and weak condition as children. Well, Nobody's watching these because they're not talking about the latest shows, not talking nonsense and making wild rhetoric of nothing. This is just realness. But it is what it is, man. In a world of fake and posturing and postulating and posing and hubris, the real becomes relegated to the annals of history, hindsight. Well, take care, and I'll see you in the next journal entry. God bless you. Be well.